The third key, Part 1, Shadows and Locks. The hum of fluorescent lights echoed across the nearly empty soul bank as Cha Eun-woo stared at the steel door of the vault. His jaw was tight, his hands folded behind his back, the weight of the case pressing against him. This wasn't just another investigation. This was personal. The deposit box, Box 314, was believed to contain the final evidence tying a powerful conglomerate to a chain of crimes, corruption, laundering, even murder. But the vault had been designed decades ago by someone paranoid enough to demand not one, not two, but 3 keys. And only with all 3 could the lock yield. 2 had already been recovered. One from a retired lawyer who confessed on his deathbed. The second from a secret compartment in a chairman's office desk, discovered after weeks of surveillance. But the third? The third was nowhere to be found. The vault manager's words still rang in Eun-woo's head. The last key was entrusted to someone unexpected, someone who wouldn't know its importance. And then came the whisper in the files, the name he hadn't heard in years. Moon Jae-young. Part 2, The Forgotten Keepsake. Moon Jae-young lived quietly now. Once a reporter known for her fearless exposés, she had withdrawn after her father's sudden passing. She worked as a freelance editor, lived in a modest apartment, and kept her past neatly folded away like old photographs. When Eun-woo appeared at her door, she almost didn't recognize him. "Cha Eun-woo," she breathed, her eyes widening. "It's been years." He nodded, formal, his posture as rigid as his press suit. "I need your help, Jae-young." Her heart skipped in spite of herself. They had once been close. Closer than she let herself admit, but life, careers, and secrets had drawn them apart. "What could I possibly help you with?" she asked cautiously. "A safe deposit box linked to the Daehan case. It requires 3 keys. We have 2. The last," he hesitated, searching her face. "It's with you?" Jae-young blinked. "Me? That's impossible. I've never even seen a key like that. Think carefully. Something you've owned for years. Something connected to your father." The mention of her father cut like a blade. He had once been a trusted accountant for the very conglomerate Eun-woo now pursued. His death had always felt unresolved. "I'll look," she said softly, though her voice trembled. Part 3, A Key in Disguise. That night, Jae-young pulled boxes from her closet, dust rising as she sifted through belongings. Her father's books, his fountain pens, even his pocket watch. Each object carried weight, memory. Hours passed until her hand landed on something ordinary, a jewelry box, lacquered wood, the one her father had given her on her 16th birthday. She had used it ever since, storing little keepsakes inside. A broken necklace, a pressed flower, a ticket stub. She turned it over and froze, carved subtly into the underside, barely visible unless one tilted the light, was the outline of a small key. She pressed gently. A hidden panel clicked open and a slender, golden key slid into her palm. Her chest tightened. Appa, you knew. The weight of it was heavy, not in metal, but in meaning. Her father hadn't just left her a keepsake. He had entrusted her with the last safeguard to a secret he hadn't dared speak. When she met Eun-woo again, she placed a key between them. His eyes widened, and for a moment the hardened investigator faded, replaced by the young man she once knew. "You found it," he whispered. But Jae-young wasn't smiling. "If this key was with me all along, then my father must have been involved. Tell me the truth. Eun-woo, was he one of them?" Silence stretched. Finally, Eun-woo said, "I don't know yet, but this key might give us the answer." The night they opened Box 314, the city seemed unusually quiet. Eun-woo and Jae-young stood in the vault, the 3 keys gleaming under the harsh lights. One by one, Eun-woo inserted them. The mechanism groaned, ancient gears grinding until the heavy door creaked open. Inside was not stacks of money, not jewels, but files. Dozens of them. Detailed ledgers, photographs, recordings, enough to unravel the empire that had stood untouchable for decades. And among them, a letter. Jae-young picked it up with trembling fingers. The handwriting was familiar. Her father's. "My dearest daughter, if you are reading this, It means I failed to protect you from the shadows I once served. I was weak, but I left behind what I could not speak. The key was my burden, but also my apology. Use it to bring the truth to light. Do not let them bury the city in silence. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the letter to her chest, her shoulders shaking. Unwoo reached out, hesitated, then let his hand rest gently on hers. This was never his crime, Jie Young. It was his redemption. Part 5. The Chase. But truth is never unguarded. Within hours of the vault being opened, Unwoo and Jie Young found themselves followed. Black cars in the rearview mirror. Footsteps echoing in alleyways. The conglomerate had eyes everywhere. One night, cornered beneath the glaring floodlights of an empty stadium, they made their stand. Jie Young clutched the files against her chest as Unwoo faced the men who stepped out of shadows. You should have stayed quiet, detective, the leader sneered. Unwoo's fist clenched. And let you keep burying lives? Not a chance. The fight was brutal, swift. Unwoo moved with precision, but he was outnumbered. Jie Young, desperate, grabbed a fallen flashlight, swinging it to fend off an attacker. For a moment, chaos raged under golden beams. Then silence. The men retreated, but not without warning. This isn't over. Breathless, Jie Young dropped beside Unwoo, who was nursing a cut on his brow. She touched his face, her voice breaking. You'll get yourself killed for this. His eyes locked on hers, intense. If I die, then at least it's for something worth dying for. But I won't let them touch you. Not again. Her chest ached, because she believed him. The files made headlines within days. Reporters swarmed. Arrest warrants were issued. The once untouchable conglomerate trembled under the weight of evidence. Jie Young returned to journalism, her voice sharper, stronger than before. Her father's name was cleared, remembered not as a conspirator, but as a man who sought atonement. Unwoo continued his fight, quieter now, but with resolve that no longer came from duty alone. On a quiet evening, he and Jie Young met again where it all began, at the old vault now emptied, only echoes left behind. Jie Young looked at him with soft eyes. We found the truth, but at what cost? Unwoo's gaze lingered on her. Sometimes the cost is everything. Sometimes it's worth it. A beat of silence. Then she smiled faintly through lingering tears. You haven't changed, Unwoo, still carrying the world on your shoulders. And you, he said, his voice gentler now, still braver than you know. They stood there, two souls scarred but unbroken, bound not just by a key, but by the shadows they had faced together. And somewhere, beneath the fading glow of distant floodlights, the city exhaled in relief. Epilogue, the third key. Years later, Jie Young kept the golden key on a chain around her neck, not as a relic of danger, but as a reminder. The third key had once been hidden in something ordinary, yet it unlocked extraordinary truths, and with it, she and Unwoo had carved a path through darkness. The vault was silent, but silence here did not feel empty. It felt heavy, the kind of silence that knew secrets, that pressed against the ears until every breath seemed too loud. Cha Unwoo stood before the steel barrier, its polished surface reflecting the faint glow of the bank's overhead lights. The air smelled faintly metallic, like coins rubbed between nervous fingers. He had been in countless banks during investigations, but this one was different. This vault did not guard wealth. It guarded history, betrayal, redemption. Somewhere behind those reinforced walls lay the truth he had chased for years. And all that stood between him and the truth were three keys. The first had come from a dying man, a retired lawyer, who had once been the trusted confidant of the Daehan conglomerate. Unwoo had gone to his hospital bed expecting lies, evasions. Instead, the man had surprised him. Open my drawer, the old man rasped, his chest rattling with every breath. The silver key inside. Take it. It's the first. Unwoo had frowned, unsure. Why give this to me? The man's eyes, clouded with age and regret, had hardened. Because I spent a lifetime burying sins that weren't mine. I will not die with them still locked away. Moments later, the heart monitor flatlined. And Un-woo had walked out with the first key clenched in his hand, a strange mix of triumph and guilt knotting in his chest. The second had been harder. It took weeks of tailing, of sleepless nights watching security feeds and piecing together patterns. It finally led him to the chairman's office, a man revered in the public eye, but known to Un-woo as the spider at the center of the web. The desk had been immaculate, every pen lined in perfect order. But Un-woo knew that men who thrived on control always left themselves one indulgence, one tell. He found it in a false bottom drawer, beneath the chairman's fountain pens. A golden key, gleaming against velvet lining, as if it had been waiting for him all along. That night, when Un-woo locked into evidence, he caught himself staring at it longer than necessary. 2 keys found, 2 shadows illuminated, but the lock remained incomplete. And now, the final piece. The bank's manager, an elderly man with trembling hands, had been reluctant to speak. Un-woo's questions had cornered him, though, leaving no room for escape. 3 keys, the manager muttered, adjusting his glasses nervously. That was the rule when they built it. Paranoia. They didn't trust each other, so they split the burden. Where's the last one? Un-woo asked. The manager hesitated, lowering his voice to a whisper. It wasn't given to a lawyer or a chairman or anyone with power. No, they gave it to someone unexpected, someone who wouldn't know its importance. The words made Un-woo still. He leaned forward, his voice steady but sharp. Who? The manager shifted uncomfortably. A man in their accounts division. Low-ranking, quiet. They thought no one would ever suspect him. His name was Moon Ji-ho. The world seemed to tilt. Un-woo knew that name, not just in the files, not just from whispers of old scandals. Moon Ji-ho was the father of someone he had once known all too well, Moon Jae-young. The name lodged itself in Un-woo's chest, stirring memories he had buried beneath years of discipline. Her laughter in crowded hallways, the way she had argued with fire in her eyes, never afraid of truth, the way she had walked away when their paths diverged. And now fate was dragging her back into his case. Un-woo left the vault, his footsteps echoing against marble floors. Outside, night had already fallen, Seoul's skyline glowing with neon and ambition. Yet he felt the weight of the key mystery pressing heavier than the city's lights. He drove in silence, but his mind was far from still. Memories clawed at him. The last time he had seen Jae-young, she had been reporting on a corruption story. Fearless even when it meant painting a target on her back. He had admired her, envied her courage, and hated himself for walking away instead of standing beside her. Now he needed her. Or rather, he needed what she might unknowingly possess. But how could he approach her after all these years? Would she even believe him? Worse, what if the key was tied to her father's death? Would he be reopening wounds that had never healed? Un-woo gripped the steering wheel tighter. The case had always been personal, but tonight it had become something more dangerous. Not just an investigation, not just justice. Now, it was entangled with a past he had never truly escaped. By the time he arrived outside her apartment, the streets were nearly empty. The glow of a street lamp bathed the building in amber, casting long shadows across the pavement. Un-woo sat in his car, staring up at the lit window he knew was hers. For the first time in years, he hesitated. This wasn't like confronting a witness or interrogating a suspect. This was Jae-young. He remembered her voice, sharp when angry, warm when soft. He remembered the way she had looked at him once, as if she could see through every mask he wore. He had been younger then, unguarded. She had been the only one who'd made him wonder if he could live a life beyond duty. But life had taken him in different directions, and now all that remained was distance. Until this case forced their paths to cross again. Taking a breath, he stepped out of the car. The night air was cool, carrying a faint scent of rain. His footsteps echoed softly as he approached the door, every step heavier with unspoken things. When he finally raised his hand to knock, he found his pulse racing faster than it ever did in the face of danger.